Okay, should be live. Alright, guys. My apologies for the late start. Having some technical difficulties with my computer. Anyhow, today we'll be basically optimizing our heads-up display. Normally I would set up a restream to watch me work, but I'm having, like I said earlier, a little bit of sensitivity issues with my computer, and not sure why my Windows 10 crashes when I use Google Chrome, but let's just keep it simple. Just do a simple YouTube stream today. Okay, set up our stream view here. Right on. So let's take a look at our characters, and I'll just to give you guys a little bit of context with regards to, we want to optimize our HUD with two aspects in mind. One being that I want to offload, like right now the HUD is being created on the main character. I mean, just like anything in programming, there's so many ways to do everything, but I'll lower that music audio a little bit. Yeah, like I was mentioning, there's so many ways to do everything, and right now the HUD is being created on the main character, and it's not a big deal. It's a single-player game, but what we could do, and what is probably better, because like we already know, our characters are the heaviest aspect of our game. So in terms of optimizing the HUD, what we could do is essentially offload that sort of task to the, let's see here, if I go to my world settings, we can see the defaults for the game mode. We want to implement a HUD class. We actually had one previously, and we were kind of, so they got pushed to the wayside. So we're going to re-implement that. First, I guess we can go to our game mode and set the defaults. That's the first thing we should do. Yeah, we can see the defaults here for the game mode. And right now it's set to none. So, the first thing I'll do is I'll set we have game state. Let's see here. Under HUD, let's see what's in our engine. We have a Project Grand Vault HUD class. Let's find this. And it's in our UMG folder. I guess we can leave it there. Or you know what? Let's move everything to do with the game mode and classes out to the general folder. Keep all of that together. And then we'll reserve our Unreal Motion Graphics folder for the widgets themselves and any textures or materials they require. Hey, you Titan. And, oh, hey, Julio. How's it going? Hope everyone's having a good afternoon. Sorry for the late stream, guys. I'm having some technical difficulties. Anywho. Okay, so inside the Project Grand Vault HUD class, let's see, these old variables that are no longer really being used. I just want to verify that this is working correctly. I'm just going to set up a simple print string, save and compile the HUD class, and make sure that it's set here. That is correct. And yeah, it's without a doubt firing. let's see here. Destroy crosshairs. For the time being, we will actually create a custom event. I will call this Draw HUD. And I guess the simplest thing I want to do here is just get a reference to our HUD class. Or you know what? Excuse me, guys. The very, very, very first thing we should be doing here is let me explain something. Yeah, we'll check out our character class. I mentioned on yesterday's stream that over the weekend I actually did a whole bunch of research and development and looking over the Unreal Engine documentation, their YouTube channel, and the forums. And let's go to our resources here. And I stumbled onto something, and that is that the HUD in most cases, let's open up HUD main. Like, you have your gauges, all your resources and everything, and typically the easiest way to set up anything is to bind properties to functions, right? So in this instance, we have this yellow gauge as our stamina bar, and you can see in two sections here we're binding the color and binding the percentage to variables. And the whole idea is that if you're binding functions on your widget, those are being called on tick, and typically, why would you need to update that every single frame? You should only be updating it when it's changing, and that makes lots of sense and should greatly optimize things. But for the life of me, I couldn't really remember, or come up with rather, a scenario where you would have to update every frame. I suppose maybe if you're playing a racing game and you have a speedometer and you need to update in a very perfect way, but I don't know, what happens when you're stopped? It seems like a waste. Like, I can't think of a situation where you need to update a HUD element every frame. Maybe if we're changing color and you want like a colored an element's brush color to change gradually from one color to another color, and you need to kind of interpolate, and it has to always happen. I don't really know. But anyways, that is the other aspect I want to optimize. So you can see here, our event graph's going to get considerably heavier just because we're going to be solving things a little bit delicately. You can see here the health bar already has been optimized. It doesn't use any bound functions, and instead, on event construct, we actually have we use an event dispatcher to update our health bar. Excuse me. So we'll check out the HUD because we'll be the HUD widget, and we will. You can actually take a look at this. So previously, on event construct of our character, we create the HUD widget, draw it on screen, set it to viewport, but then we also create a reference to our main HUD. And you can see I left a note here in this black comment box, convert to event dispatcher HUD. That is what we did right here. So instead of hooking this up like it was previously and updating this information on tick to a bound function, what we want to do is actually just call the update. And if we double click on it, I believe, oh no, we don't. Bind event to update HUD. The target is the HUD we create on our main character as a target, and the event dispatcher automatically fires this event, which binds our health percentage. And the cool part is it has the input variable that we're adjusting everything to. So that is what we want to do essentially for everything. And I believe everything in terms of update health, update conditions, update stamina, they all have previously been using a called function that then was referencing the variable itself that's on the HUD. So I believe we can pretty much delete that health bar variable because we are no longer using it. If we find references, it should be none. Oh, okay, the visibility. Right. So on our HUD, look at the designer here, we've implemented signifiers. Basically, these yellow and green lights at the top of the gauges, they sort of signify when your HP and stamina, your HP and SP are at max. They allow for, like, you can imagine you're playing the game, you can quickly see with regards to if your HP and stamina are max, and that's useful when determining the prerequisites for certain skills, which will require your HP to be at a certain state. Sometimes you may need to have max stamina or max HP to use certain abilities or certain scenarios, so you can quickly ascertain as to what the status is. Because maybe if it's like 95, 96, it might look full, but this way, with just a glance, you know for certainty if it's full. So now that that mouthful is out of the way, what I want to do here is replace our custom function, get HP bar light. So this is a bound function for this element here. We have our max lights. If we go to the HP bar light, yeah, we can see we've bound a visibility function. We want to replace this. We can actually remove the binding now. And we can actually use the exact same update health bar event for the light as well. And it's going to use the exact same logic. Basically, this branch, is our health points is a percentage equal to 1? If it is, make it visible. If it's not, make it invisible. Pretty basic. Looking at the designer, make sure I focus here, and I go back to the event graph. This should be highlighted for me, and we have the HP bar light. We want to set visibility based on every time we update a health bar, and should just be able to grab this. We can cut it because we're going to delete this function anyways, and go to our event graph, and whoops, did not mean to hit Control B. Definitely meant to hit Control V because I want to paste that. And what we want to do is get our health percentage, see if it's equal to 1, and leverage our function as it was. I'm going to create a bit more room here, mostly because this function, or this event graph, is going to get a little bit heavier, like relatively so. Why didn't those guys come along? There you go. So this is our update health function. Now we have, try to tighten this up a little bit, set to visible or invisible, that's fine, and equals to 1. So let's save and go to our function and delete that. For the SP, we could pretty much do this. So this is more interesting. For stamina, we have the same situation. We have the color bound to a function, or sorry, a variable, and we have a percentage. Pretty basic. For the colored light, for the signifier, it's also bound to a function, which is this one here. We want to So we basically always check, are we at a quarter of our stamina points? If stamina points is equal to less than 0.25, we actually call a function called low stamina loop, and then that function ends with defining if it's true or false. We can copy this. We're going to basically replicate that function for stamina. I suppose we could create a new custom event as well. Custom event. Call this update stamina. Bind event to update HUD. We probably just trying to refresh my memory with regards to how these were set up. So event dispatchers are set up on the parent character update HUD, which is definitely the event we want to call, and we also have a float in. So what's interesting is we have, bind event update HUD, but we don't want to be updating everything. Like, this should be update health on HUD. And then we should have another event for bind to stamina, because each of these custom events are going to need to be bound to a dispatcher. HUD HP. So I'm going to set that up now. Can we make a new dispatcher? And we'll call this update HUD SP. Copy signature from. Oh, no, we don't need any of that. What we do need is an input for a float, and call this update stamina points percentage. Okay, so let's try to figure this out. If we go to our updates character status, we can close that. Can probably clean this up a little bit. Close all the tabs we don't need. So similar to update health, we want to treat that in the same. We want to treat the stamina in the same manner. Excuse me. And kind of do it's a little bit more complex of a function, but we still have the same endpoint, update to HUD, and all we want to do is update HUD. I believe call is what we want to do. Is that correct? Yes. Call that event dispatcher. So let's compile, and it should update the readout for the parameter to stamina points, stamina percentage. Perfect. Oh no, maybe not quite. Let's check out the files Unreal wants me to, so it'll be happy. And let's take a look at it's a little odd. I have to draw up a new one. Yep. Okay. So we'll just delete that old one. Use Control Click, replace these inputs, and the HUD reference is also not compatible with self. Let's see here. Oh, of course, it's our function. and this should be fine to be plugged in there. And I believe that's all we have to do on the character, on the actor that's calling the event dispatch. So now we have to sort of apply the logic on the actor that is listening, or that we want to listen for that event. Okay, so let's go to the graph here, and I believe we just pulled this out here. Update, call update HUD. No, bind to update HUD. And I think this should be serviceable. We have these events bound, and we should be able to just drag. Oh, that's not right. Add custom event, and yes, of course, because it doesn't have the inputs. We want to bind it to update stamina. Oh, whoops. Update stamina bar. Yeah, you know why? Because of this guy. Okay, so from here we have our check that we can do still for the visibility of the SP bar light, which is right here. You can drag that out. I'm gonna Alt Control W to duplicate that visibility. And the same logic is driving the visibility for both of those signifiers. However, we still want to be able to adjust the percentage. Let's see here. So just grab this guy out here. Control click. Whoopsies. Okay. Connect these pins. Make sure we get the stamina percentage in. And I want to say this will work. So let's test this out. Let's see if it's broken. Okay, so stamina's full. Now if I hold shift, we are moving at a greater speed. And it is working as intended. Yeah, it's a lot easier than I thought it would be to set up the HUD in this way. Yeah, so what we can do, I guess, is add some comments to this. Update HP bar, or progress bar. Cool, and then I'll do the same here. Update SP progress bar. Ah, that letter A. Why? My sticky shift keys. It's probably just me. Okay. The next gauges we want to do are probably the Xenos gauge. If we come through here, we have, let's see, max resources, condition cost. So there's no function on the parent for the Xenos gauge. It's actually on the child classes. And that's because, if you've been following development so far, our characters handle that resource differently. For Maya, it's a fast refilling resource, and for Vance, it's a more powerful resource, but regenerates slower. In any case, let's set up the same logic on them. So for Vance, oh no, excuse me, that's weird. I definitely thought I set colors on these so that I could easily distinguish them. Let's just apply that. Okay. And we have functions here for update. We have 0 Xenos power, update armor points, get visual state, send to HUD is the Xenos power. Here it is. It's on the event graph for the child class. So using the same manner, we should be able to create an event dispatcher. No. You know what? Here's a good question. I wonder, and I guess we can figure this out together. Um, can we call updates? Okay, so we definitely can make use of the function on our create an event dispatcher on the parent class. So let's do that for Xenos Power. Make a new event dispatcher. We'll call it update HUD Xenos Power. You could use XP, but then it kind of gets confusing. Are you talking about experience points? Right, so best not to. Best not to make things confusing. And back on our child character, we will call. Oh, excuse me. I forgot something critical. Forgot to add the input for the float. Not child. Xenos power percentage. And now we can compile, and we should be able to get all the information we need on the child characters. And we'll use the same on Maya as well. Okay, so let's go to our HUD here. Actually, that's a little weird. We should maybe how embarrassing. Maybe my check didn't exactly prove valid because these were all still bound, although we were still updating them. So I'm not sure what the conflict, what precedes what instruction, but we have since removed those functions. We definitely want to. Okay, the Xenos bar is not bound. It's set to a brush, which should be fine. And we have the light itself, which is also just an image. But we do want to get this binding, but then remove it. Okay, let's see here. So on our child class, we want to call update HUD Xenos Power. Very cool. And the percentage in is, whoa, whoops. Percentage in is this. And then we have a check, is armor ready? We don't have to pass that through. We can just pass it through here. So I'm going to save and compile and then create the listener for that dispatcher on the HUD. And once we can verify that Stamina and Xenos Power are working on Vance, we'll jump over to Maya and set up the dispatch on her child class. This is some very dramatic, theatrical music. Let me change it. Okay, so from the main reference, we want to get them. We want to bind update HUD Xenos Power. Hook up our pins and create a custom event called update Xenos bar. And what we want to do here is This is for condition. This is for stamina. So previously, well, you can see here, this also was driven directly by an event tick, based on the dynamic material and the scalar parameter. The alpha on the material is what drives the gauge itself. Um, Target is dynamic material. Yeah, so the stamina is working correctly. However, the Xenos gauge, does not appear to be working. Um, One item we want to add here is also the signifier at the end. So if we get the Xenos gauge light and the SP bar, we should be able to use that exact same logic. I think, yeah, Xenos gauge light, it's fine. All the signifiers are basically using the same logic. If the resource is max percentage, then show true. Um, let's find reference to this. We get it in two places. One is the function, which will be deleted. Oh, and our SP bar light. So yeah, the SP needs to call this event still. We can cut this, delete the function, and then do a similar check here. That should now work for the Xenos gauge refill. We'll test that really quick. And actually, this is in the wrong spot. This is for the stamina loop. We definitely want to hook it up to our stamina event. And what we want to do here is a simple check for, is this less than, yeah, just a simple less than would work. And let's use, 1 is 1%, let's use, 1 is 100%, let's use 0.2. So if it's less than 20%, we execute this function, and this function here is actually this. So we can move this. Oh geez, we do not want to grab that. Okay. So from here, and for event tick, we can just delete that. We're no longer using it, which is something we can feel good about in terms of optimizing our HUD. The less event ticks, the better. Okay, so show stamina loop. So let me refresh my memory here. Low stamina loop is called by this do once event, which toggles between two colors of our stamina assuming that the stamina that we're checking against is no results found. That should be, we should be able to delete that just fine. SP bar tint color. This also we should be able to replace. If we go to the fill color, which is where it was bound, with our SP bar selected, we could drag it all the way over, but we'll just grab a new reference to it and set color and opacity. And from here, we'll just plug that in. And then we are achieving the exact same result without without excessive variables and bound functions. And we'll do the same for this bottom one too. Okay, so I'll hook that up like so, move this over here, and I am getting a notification for my headphones being low. So, before I run out of battery midstream, I definitely want to plug that in. Okay, here it is. Here it is. Alright. Give me 1 minute, guys. Okay, and I'll plug that into my keyboard here. And I don't know if you guys heard that, but my headphones are plugged in and we're ready to go. I want to test the functionality of the SP bar loop now. So what we'll have to do is, and it's kind of, what's the conflict that's been called here? Let's see. We'll attempt to compile so that we can get the error, I guess, hyperlinks, you could say. And once it's done compiling, it should give me a readout at the bottom here with where the issues are. The stamina points percentage, the variable that we destroyed on our HUD. Yes, so in this function, max resources, you can see that all of these are going to have that same error. So what we'll have to do here is actually call that dispatcher again. It's actually that easy. So let's call update HUD HP and replace that one like so. And do the same for our SP. Call update SP. Plug that in here and then loop that down here. For daily energy max, we are going to get into that last because it is a little bit of a special case. But we can delete these. Should be no problem. So let's save, compile. There we go. Finally Unreal. Okay. Now then. Right, so what I wanted to test was, it's going to take a little bit of time. I mean, we could have reduced our stamina. Whoops, we don't want to go there. We could have reduced our stamina consumption, or increased our stamina consumption, rather. But we are testing it this way. So once we're at 0.2%, okay, that's cool. And the signifier works. That is fine. And that is functional, and that is most importantly what we want. I'm going to. Oh gosh, that's so awkward. Why can't I grab that? Okay, whatever. Update. So update. Progress bar. And let me just double check that one more time. Yep, the progress bar is updating. Super cool, super cool. So let's jump to Maya's blueprint here and enable her Xenos power to do the same. So if we go to set Xenos power, this will simply, I guess, set it to whatever we desire. We want to make that call here. So call Xenos power on HUD. We will replace that like so. Hook these all up. Send to HUD will be placed there. And before we compile, I'm almost certain there's another place where we have this. Just powers here. Here's our send to HUD. This is the one I was looking for. So let's call update Xenos power and connect our function keys. And definitely want both of these hooked up. So send to HUD is here, and I believe all of the abilities and resources, set Xenos power. It calls that same function, so we'll get in there and test a few abilities as well. Maybe turn on our gamepad here. Okay, this is annoying me. Okay. Let's jump in here. Let me grab my controller. Oh, it does not appear to be plugged in. That would actually help. There we go. Okay, so yeah, Xenos gauge fills in fairly well. That's really loud. I apologize, guys. Bear with me. Yeah, the event dispatchers are working perfectly. That is quite cool. Quite cool. So the next, the reason why I wanted to do Vance first and move on to Maya second is because Maya's HUD is, I mean, I guess we could hop back to Vance, but Maya's HUD's a bit more complex just because it has these, how can I say this? It's more complex because she has these water canteens, and she has 4 of them. So they kind of have to be handled a little bit delicately. Maybe delicately isn't the right word. You can see here on the update function, we create our bound events, and we have our dynamic material being set for the Xenos gauge here, and the colors. So I guess we can just comment this. set Xeno stage colors. Sure. That's pretty much all of that. So now, depending on looking at our HUD, you can see that we have 4 canteens here. Those are they're only visible on Maya because she uses them, and they only show up depending on how many she has. So with that in mind, it's a little bit trickier. We have a percentage gauge on each, but then on each actual canteen, we have a visibility factor that's also been bound. Um, so if we go to our functions here, the percentage. So looking at our HUD widget, the little confusing. Let's go back to the designer. We have a variable for the visibility, canteen _1 visibility, and in our variables, oh yes, inside of here, of course. So if we try and find these, no results found. They are actually being set on the character blueprint. Hey, Skank Hunt. How's it going? Thanks for tuning into the stream. Great username, by the way. Where was I? So we have update visuals here. This function, where do we have visuals, we have canteens, and water canteens are being set here. But this is more so for our character's visual state. We want to check for actually, this is very interesting. This macro inside of here. And here we can see where we're setting this variable on or off. Every time I look at chat now, I'm going to start laughing. It's too funny. Anyways, yeah, this is where we want to. We don't have to necessarily clean it up in terms of logic, but we want to clean up because it's taxing our HUD with these bound functions. So I won't delete them just yet, but what we're going to have to do is, well, I guess the first step is to create an event dispatcher on the character. And we'll call this update HUD, water points, WP for short. And we're going to add, let's think about this. On our HUD, we're tracking water points from character via an integer, and the percentage is, yeah, it's all being driven from that integer. So we'll just keep it the same. Use the same logic. If it works, actually it does work perfectly. It's just a matter of optimizing, which is the name of the game today. We'll call this water points from character. I'm going to get to that next track. And sort of let this compile. Now what we want to do is, we have a function here, update water points, which, not skill strike. right here, where we send, basically update that and send it to our HUD. So here's where we're going to call our event dispatcher. Can we drag that out? Yeah, we want to call it. And I think we just want to pass all the same information through. No different than our other event dispatchers. Ah, shoot. Okay. So we'll save here. I guess we'll compile again. And then what we want to do is set the listener for that event on our HUD. So on our HUD, we have to make things a little bit more complex. Yeah, the first thing we can do is, so on main reference, we actually can't call the child event dispatcher from the parent. That relationship only works one way. If we search for updates, HUD, you can see our call events, our dispatchers. They actually don't include the one in our child class, which is fine because we only need it if that character's in play. Excuse me. What I'm going to do is make some space here, and I guess yeah, this should be fine. We're going to make this branch happen a bit earlier. That's a little awkward. So we have the path up here for Vance, and again the path down here for Maya. That's fine. We can leave those as they are. I'll change this default color for void to red, because just for consistency, that change is something we decided on earlier. So get dynamic material. I'm going to duplicate this, create the reference to the target here, and you know what? No sense having these, like, let's try and keep this clean a little bit. Let's just grab a new reference. For these two, and we can hook it up like so. And then these would route into their appropriate colors. Yeah, something like that. Okay, so now that we got that kind of a bit more organized, what we want to do here is basically cast to the similar to what we have going on here, where we have our main character reference. On our characters, our child characters, excuse me, we have on construct, we have basically not a reference to the child character, only the parent class. And I don't think we need a hard set actor reference for our character in play, for the child character rather. I think we should be able to get away with a cast to. Cast to, well, we'll use Vance in this case, and Maya here in this case. Cast to each of those, and we're going to convert them to a pure cast. Wait, is that right? Yeah, it should be fine. Yeah, cast those to a pure cast each, and what we want to get is, well, on Vance, not yet. Dispatch for armor. Let's make a note. But for Maya, we do have the bind update, or sorry, bind updates event. So this is the event we made. We're using the same kind of logic we were implementing for the parent character, but now this is for the specific character in play. And what we want to get from here, well, is, I think you guys are familiar with the drill now. We want to update water points, sure. And we also want to make sure we're getting the player character. And we'll move that down here. And now we can finally sort of begin replacing the functionality of those bound functions for the water points. So, my gosh, let's get all of the progress bars first. Canteen bar 1, and it looks like none of the others are named, so let's make sure we're getting the right ones. Yeah, canteen bar underscore 1, canteen bar underscore 2, canteen bar underscore 3, and 4. Okay. From this point, we should be able to grab these three. I'm going to copy my get set percent widget function, because that should be totally cool. Let's try and keep this as organized as possible. As organized and readable for me to read in the future, for other team members to read. There's nothing worse than opening up a function, or a blueprint rather, and just saying, what the fuck is this shit? Because it's just a mess, right? So we want to be considerate to those who will be working with these, or working with this outside of me. And even for myself, like if I take too long, if I'm working on, like, let's say 3D modeling or some level design stuff, and then I come back to blueprinting and I can't remember, like, if it's like more than 3 weeks, I'll just be like, wow, I need to like read this and what's going on just to figure out how I'm supposed to work with this. Anyways, for the canteen bar percentages, it's pretty basic logic. I'm just gonna copy and paste all of this stuff into here. So this is for 2. This is for 4. What about 3? And then for, whoops, excuse me, clicking all over the place. My bad. Didn't mean to give you guys any headaches. Okay. Yeah, we hooked this up just like that. And stick those in here. Yeah, that's neat-ish, right? Pretty clear with regards to what's going on and updating those percentages. In terms of visibility, okay, so now what we can definitely do is unbind these functions. We've replaced them with our dispatcher. It should work just fine. Um, in terms of water points from character, we find references. Oh yeah, excuse me, let's just delete those and find references. No results found. Should be perfect. We'll delete that. And from here, we'll compile. And we got to deal with our visibility. The simplest way would be to check if we have, if you think about it, the simplest way would be to check, oh, do we have more than 0? And then do we have more than 10, more than 20? But that's not true, because you could have that item in your inventory and still it's like it could be at 0. You could have an empty canteen, excuse me, and then you'd still be able to see it on your HUD. Just see that it's empty. It shouldn't just go away. Um, so we'll call this water point. Jeez, I can't type today. Okay, that is here. Update water points progress bars. We do want a visibility toggle as well, which should be its own dispatch. We shouldn't be needing to update that on. Updating the visibility should not be tied to the event for updating the actual percentage. So I'll make a new dispatcher. Call it update HUD underscore water canteens. And what we want to do here is in our macro is where this is going to exist. This is the reference to the actor on our character. And here is a pretty heavy function. And how do we want to handle this? Right now it is it's a visibility widget variable. We could just use a straight 1 to 4, right? Like a true or false basically for each of these. Do we have it? Yes or no? That would actually be ideal. So let's make a new variable, and I guess we could use a count, an integer. Default value would be 0. And we can do a bunch of not F checks, but I guess true or false checks based on the quantity 0 to 4. Oh, why am I compiling? I'm such a goof. We want to be changing the variables. Yeah, water points from character could not be found. What we want to do. Oh, that's funny. Okay. Not funny. Just a reference we missed. So let's do that same call, update water points, call that event for the HUD, and simply plug in our water points, and we should just be able to delete that just fine. That should be good now. I'm not even going to compile just to check. I'm just going to hop back to our macro here and update HUD Let's just call this. And basically we want to, if, our water point max is 0, we just want to I get it. Okay, cool. That's fine. It's going to be a lot cleaner, which is quite nice. We can delete all of this and simply route this into here and probably set our quantity in. Just use that. And for the sake of my own consistency, I want to get this color here so that I can be consistent with my comment colors. You may have noticed that I try my best to keep some consistency for the visual, for that language, so it's kind of quick to realize, oh, what's happening where. Okay, so call event update canteens. I believe the canteen update should only need to be set on this function, I think. I guess the quickest way to tell would be to delete these variables. Let's unbind them first. So we can go to each of these parents and, well, firstly, we're going to have to make each of them a variable themselves, but then also we can remove their visibility. Hop over to our graph, and then we can delete these variables. And then we have our borders that we made here. Okay, so let's save, and I guess we'll compile here and see if there are any errors on our child character, and then if there are, we'll fix those up. If there are not, it looks like it's fine. Let's compile this again, just to refresh this and verify that it's kind of clean. Our channeling abilities should be just fine and functional. So let's, we have some canteens for pickup right here. So let's hop in there and pick some of these up. In terms of channeling our Xenos gauge, well, we know that works. Yeah, it works just fine. And if we pick up these, so we're not getting that update on our HUD. Character's updating fine. You can see the canteens have been picked up. But, oh, of course it's not working. We didn't create the listener for that event. Kind of like we did here. So what we want to do here is we want to, on our HUD, bind update HUD water canteens. And we're basically just creating a listener for that event dispatcher. And we'll drag it down here, make a new custom event, and call this canteen visibility. Should be fine. Why does it say new parameter? That's a bit odd. If we look at our character here, oh, well, that's why it's called new parameter. We'll use canteen quantity is what we want. And it's changed, but not reflecting that change if we compile. Yes, there's an error, of course. Now if we call this, it's still showing us new parameter, which is very bizarre to me. Well, that would be why. I think. Okay, yes, new parameter is not found because our new event dispatcher is what exists. So that makes me very happy because we know that's going to work. Let's save here, and we're going to have to compile to test this out in game. But before we test it out, we're going to have to jump to our HUD and update the listener for this event. I'm just going to actually create a new one. Find update event canteens, and we want to create a custom event, and it has the right parameter readout, so I know the data will be correct. It's all up to date, and let's call it custom event 0 for now, because I want to use a name that I made earlier. So we'll leave that here and bring this down. Yeah, canteen visibility is what we want this event. Canteen viz. And let's go with, well, whoops. We're going to drag out the borders for our canteens, right? We set these up here. By checking this off is variable, we're able to access the border that contains all the elements within. And what we're going to be doing is setting the visibility for it. So we basically are going to be doing a series of branches. I mean, you could do a switch, but then you're going to get a really awkward tree where we're turning certain things off and certain things on. So we're going to check is equal is greater than. And whoops, no, we want to drag out from here, set visibility. And yeah, if it's greater than 0, we set this to true. Wait, how do we want to structure this? Well, I guess it doesn't matter. We're going to need a bunch of these. So if it's greater than 1, canteen 2 will be visible, and so on and so on. Whoops, if it's greater than 2, and if it's greater than 3. Now if it's false, so this is going to be a little bit more messy, just because you have the option to you know, sell items, stash items, um, and all of that. We want to make sure that, hey, if you don't have any canteens, remove all of those elements from the HUD, right? Um, Same for down here. If we only have one, we want everything beyond 2 to be hidden. So it's a little confusing in terms of reading where these wires are going, but it's sort of like a fail safe. If you don't have more than 2, we hide everything above, basically 3 and 4. Update water canteen visibility. All right, save that. Now I think that our HUD should update with our canteens as we pick them up. And it still doesn't. Perhaps I should debug. Is that important? Not really. This has nothing to do with our visual feedback. Let's take a look at the main character here. And in terms of inventory handlers, add to inventory. What do we have here? We have update visuals. Yeah, that should be fine. If she's picking up a water canteen, we should be calling our macro, which should call this. So I'm gonna have to use the debug viewer. I'm gonna drag out this HUD blueprint. Let's see if we're getting what we're supposed to. Is my debug filter on? Oh, sorry. Oh yeah, the voiceover or the audio is kind of like loud by default. Need to adjust that in the animation. Yeah, we're not getting any of that. Perhaps. Oh yeah, I'm such a bogus goof. That's why. Look at this. Look at all of this. Ugh. Okay. That is exactly why. Just move this over. Save and compile. Hop back in here. Whoops. No. And let's give it another go. Beautiful. Okay. And we have 5 or 4. For some reason, that gauge is displaying that we have water points where we shouldn't. If we use this ability, sorry. Yeah, we definitely don't have actual water points on us, because that should automatically prioritize the canteens before your resource. Let's move that back over. What is going on with this? Set percent, canteen 1, water points from character. we've set up the listeners to work, so just trying to figure out as to why. Why, oh, why are we not getting this to read out accurately? Um, Looking at our functions here, we have get visual states, update water points here. Hey, Sebastiano, how's it going? Thanks for tuning into the stream. I hope you're having a good day. Hmm. Let's go in here. Let's go in here and see what's happening. Pick up 1. Yeah, by default it's like 5. I wonder. Has to be something on the HUD. I don't think it's on our character. The status menu is showing it at 0, which should be correct. On the designer, well, that would be why. That would be exactly why. This is not bound to anything. By default, we could have it add 0. And it makes sense. We're not acquiring or gaining them, but that is something we have to add to the data transfer, the level data transfer, is that character's current resources, which is, we kind of began building that functionality on yesterday's stream. However, let's just verify that the water point pickups are, well, the water points and everything are working. I can actually get rid of some of these items. Come on. Right, so we go to our pickups, and yeah, we'll throw in like a few of these. So now if we pick up these 2, well, I guess 3, and if we come over here, perfect, we have our 2 pickups. And I apologize if it's loud, guys. I have to, yeah. Man, it's actually making me deaf. Okay, sorry. Just want to verify that these actors are working with the new HUD. Yeah, they're working beautifully. Nice. Okay. Nice. So I believe outside of the condition gauge on our HUD, which is right here, Maya's junk is all working nice. Can we delete some of these variables now? Possibly. Health point percentage, we probably can delete that. Excuse me, Xenos points percentage, yeah, we made sure that's working. Mallet on character, this is again another bound function. And our animations, if can we categorize these as well? Make a new category here for Maya. I mean, we had it existing before, but it was kind of. Oh, I guess the widget elements can't be categorized. That's a little What's up with this music? I'm going to remove it from the playlist and just grab a new song here. Oh no, it does work. Okay, so yeah, let's categorize these a little bit. Category. Um, it's just a little bizarre as to why it's not updating immediately. Because these are all parts of the widget that are only for her character. Cool. So for Vance, we have two more things we have to add. I guess we could, I don't know, add some color here um, for that visual language I was mentioning earlier. This gauge, I don't know. Let's just put it as pink. Yeah, water points. Yeah, we'll use that color. That's cool. Whatever. And okay, so we have the armor component of Vance's armor. It actually is part of the widget. It's just removed from our visibility right now. There it is. So, and we can probably just hide, whoops, not the whole canvas. We can probably just hide these canteens. We don't need to see those. Yes, so right now, the way things are set up is if we jump into the game here. Oh my god! What happened? Let's fix it. Let's see here. I'm going to run the compile just to get the exact location of the errors, the compile errors. It probably has something to do with the variables we deleted on our HUD. But that's not a big deal. That was our intention, to optimize and clean up the HUD. So anyways, could not find a variable for Xenos percentage. I gotcha. Okay, so this is actually my hotkey that I was about to demonstrate for you guys. Anyways, let's call in update update HUD HP. Did I not click on anything? Oh geez. What did I do? Oh, we don't want to bind it. We want to call it. So it's like kind of the opposite of what we want. We want to update HUD. And not call, we want to, yeah, actually we do want to call. Grab this, pass this through here, and we can delete this. So then now we should be able to compile here and begin adjusting this armor gauge. Oh, you know what? What I did was totally wrong. That was for... How embarrassing. Update. Call update Xenos power. That's actually what we want to be updating. I set the wrong event to be dispatched. So let's set this right here. And on our event graph, where we were previously, look, we're setting Xenos power, but like I said earlier, I goofed. We want to call update to the Xenos power on the HUD. That way, when I use my hotkey, we're updating and adjusting the right variables. Okay, so while that compiles, hopefully it doesn't take too long, because I don't have anything else planned. Right. So we're here. If I hit my 0 key, we get that bump to our gauge here. And the idea is when you have your armor transformed, you can kind of call on your power abilities to get your body armor, and then you can get hurt, and the armor takes damage for you. And then after a brief moment of time, it refills, kind of like a shield in Halo or something. And this is what we want to make based off of a dispatcher and offload a bound function, yet another bound function off the HUD. So we can see here we have basically just two bound functions, one for percentage and one for visibility. So we can remove both those excessive variables. And it kind of similar to these two, we're going to be setting a percentage and setting a visibility. But instead of 4 elements, we only have to worry about 1. So we'll have to, on Vance's blueprint, set up 2 dispatchers and call it update HUD underscore AP for armor points. And that is going to need an input for a float. So you can create inputs here just like for a function, and we'll add a float and we'll call it pretty simply armor percentage. And before we compile, let's make another one. And I'll call this update HUD AP viz. And we'll have to see how those are set up. If we look at our HUD and look for those variables, we can see that, whoops, don't want to rename. We can see that there are no results found, which means none of these were getting set up on the HUD. They're all getting set up on our character, which is a way to work where it makes things more confusing, because right now we have to go through and find how those are being applied, so we can replace that with the event dispatcher. Anywho, let's close Maya's blueprint for now. Inside of Vance's blueprint, we have a few functions. It's a good place to start. Calculate armor. So AP, armor point, calculate damage, is a macro which doesn't really reference anything on our HUD. Not helpful. Damage range creation, that's fine. Guard burn calculate, doesn't reference the HUD either. These are macros. I believe none of the macros have a direct reference to the HUD. So we have update armor points. We have regen, and we have double edge, and we have set. I really want to believe that we can update this, and maybe whatever this is linking to, this custom event, and we should be good to go. So let's call update armor points. Let's call this set the percentage and set all of these wires as desired. And I guess we'll just call this through here. And if we look through here, we have is fractured. Check if AP is greater than 30%. Fracture start, armor break. So none of these actually turn armor on or off, which is okay. In terms of armor point regen, okay, it calls the looping function, basically. Okay, yeah, for the regen, that makes sense. So that should allow us to, I believe, that should be the only adjustment of the armor points on Advance's blueprint. In terms of the armor's visibility, that is probably going to need to be handled on a visual state for Vance, where here we have the, you know, the visual state of the character mesh and model. But here, that's where it is. Okay. Here we should be able to make use of a true or false. So we'll create a new input, set this to a Boolean, and we'll call it is armor visible, and that should be good. I will drag this out, make a call to it, and both, we're going to call it 2. So we'll duplicate this again, pass these through. Oh shoot! To compile, I have to recall these because we don't have the correct parameter. It's not up to date. And I believe if we just try to set it up as is there, it would probably call this parameter, this input pin does not exist, or we cannot find the desired input pin. So we'll just compile and rebuild those two. Yeah, you can see we have some errors already because of that. So we'll get this actual one here, set this to true, or sorry, set this to false, and set this to, well, duplicate this, set this to true. I wonder, could we use a visible pass-through? Is that a thing you can do? We could. We definitely could do that. And then we would need to do a Boolean check. So I think we will use that. Because unlike the canteens, we're not going to need to adjust 4 with one variable, where in that case, unless you want to have 4 input pins, that's crazy. We just use an integer. In this case, I think it's more reasonable to use the function as desired. Excuse me. A little bit clumsy here with my planning. In case you aren't able to tell, yeah, this isn't exactly a tutorial. It's more like, hey, I'm trying to do a thing, and I'd like to share it with you guys, and maybe, well, hopefully we should be able to figure out what we're working on. Visibility. And in most cases, we usually accomplish whatever we set out to do. It's just not a very clean path. Sometimes I'm doing the wrong thing, and then I'm like, hey, this isn't working. Why is that? And then we figure it out. Good lord. Okay, so now we finally have the event dispatcher that we want to use. Okay, duplicate this. Set the top one to hidden and the bottom one to visible. And we'll pass this through just like so. And if we save and we compile again, we should be able to, yeah, it's good. Blueprint is good to go. Now on our HUD, let's go to our event graph and create the listeners for this. So can we assign update HUD AP, and I'll call this update AP percentage, and we can do the same here with an assign AP visibility, toggle armor visibility. Oh god. Okay. Drag these through here, connect these pins in, and we're gonna basically set those up. Now, let's just drag these down. I mean, if you guys were planning to do this kind of strategy to clean up your own HUD, these red wires can get annoying because they're just looping all over the place. If you didn't like them, you could keep all of your these assigned events up here, and then create a custom event that you can call further down in your blueprint, and that would clean up your, I guess it would clean up your blueprint, but I mean, then you have more functions. I don't know, I just try to ignore these wires. Anyways, AP bar, where are we? We should be able to delete these. And on the AP gauge, should be at the top. Let's check this out. So progress bar, advanced armor. Well, that's why it's not under A. Yeah, visibility and percent. So let's get this. We want to set percentage whenever that event is called, and just connect that in like so. Should be fine. And then we want to set the visibility of that progress bar. And this should, yeah, perfect. Part of me was afraid that it was a different visibility we were looking for, but I'm happy that's not the case. So, I guess we can hop into our game view, verify that that is working, and unfortunately, there's probably another reference to our update dispatchers here that we have to replace somewhere in our blueprint. But you know what? It's not a bad thing. It's actually great that Unreal will find where the errors are and let me know. Yeah, this makes perfect sense. This definitely should be over here as well. So let's get armor visibility. Call this, and I guess we could call the other one too. But only on armor on. Actually, I just thought of something. We can set that up on the HUD. Yep. So here we want to set this to hidden. Or sorry, make sure we're picking the right option there. And from here, we want to set this to visible. And let's save, save and compile. Now, what I was thinking of earlier was the idea of, hey, when we turn on the armor, we should assign the percentage, like what's going on here. So I was wondering, hey, should we be calling this our HUD update event immediately before, or sorry, immediately after? Um, to be determined. We'll figure that out now. So everything's ready to go. Turn on armor. And the armor gauge, like I thought, is spawning at its default state. And as soon as we take damage, it will actually be, how can I say this? Right, fill to max, right? So it's kind of awkward. And then if we call it back on, now it's behaving as it would. So most likely we want to call that that event as well, where we update the armor points and the armor percentage. Oh, excuse me. The armor percentage we would be using would be actually set to full. Actually, no, that's gonna screw us over later. Let's be smart about it and use the actual values we should. Actually, we don't have to call the event. What we should be calling is the update armor function. And you can see here, if we set read, why is it WP? Anyways, if we hop into here, regen to max, we could set it to true. If we set it to false, that should be fine. We actually should label this as AP. But anyways, from here, AP to exchange should be kept to 0, and this at false should be fine as well. And the reason for that is because we want to leverage the event being called here, but we also want to call that event from this function because we know it's going to accurately how can I say this? Accurately set up our armor points with the values we need. Oh, wow. Sorry, I'm so slow for the comments. Yo, Scan Cunt. That's awesome, man. Thanks. Glad you like our content. That's really cool. So let's see here. Now if we toggle, uh-oh. That's not right. Let's see here. Yeah, by default, that should definitely not be on. So, why is that? Let's see. Our onBeginPlay functions are in the event graph, and where are we? So on begin play, we set the data on our HUD for the active character, and we begin our Xenos Power region. And that's kind of it. We actually can delete this, to be honest. Inside of here, is this calling anything? It shouldn't. It's updating the Xenos power percentage, which is correct. Huh. You know what? Maybe I'm overthinking it. Is it possible that it's just set to visible on false? Yeah, it is. Okay. Yeah, by default, please stay hidden. So let's compile here, and in our character main, we'll have to compile as well. I guess that was something I just didn't notice. So that's ideal. Our Xenos gauge is, or sorry, our armor gauge is hidden. If I toggle up 100% and I turn this on, sorry, to set the level, make sure the skill's unlocked. Yeah, now we're getting our accurate sort of display here. And it refills as it should. Very cool. Very cool. I mean, eventually I want to have those crack effects on the armor gauge as well. But that's kind of like a cosmetic thing. Let's see here. So on our HUD, let's review. I guess we can say set armor gauge or armor progress bar percentage and visibility. And we can probably put a light greenish color. So we've removed a whole bunch of bound functions off of our HUD, replacing those functions that were basically calculated on tick when they didn't have to be, with functions that are now, well, not functions, but with event dispatchers, so that the HUD is only updated when we need it to, when these values are getting adjusted, when they're visible, rather than every frame. Let's check and make sure that things aren't visible. For example, as an FYI or a public service announcement, when you're working with the the canvas slot panel details here for these different elements, whenever you're binding functions, they are being called on tick. So you, in most cases, want to clean that up, unless it's absolutely something that needs to be, like, I don't know, like if you have a stopwatch or something, then maybe you do want it to be on tick. But I did want to check this. I believe there is a, see, this brush is being, it's actually not bound. There's no binding. It's actually just being set by default, so that's okay. And that's just what I want to double check on. Things like our money, yeah, that's still bound. I actually want this to be handled a little differently. Most likely, and we can drive it from an event tick, and maybe that'll be the last thing I do for the HUD optimization. So on our main character, let's create another event dispatcher, and we'll call this update HUD underscore malite. and Mallight's the currency for the game. It looks like this. You pick them up. This doesn't have to be displayed all the time. We can have an animation for this. Mallight pickup. So let's, again, make a little bit more space. And, in fact, maybe let's raise this up a little bit. And what we want to call it from here is our update bind event to update Mallight. Excuse me. And to be honest, just thinking about this, how we want to structure it. Yeah, we know it's going to be called no matter what. Leave that down here for now. We want to pass through our, let's look at the functions here for inventory. We have add to inventory, use item, inventory check. Strange, I would have thought our update Mallight would have been in the inventory handlers. But where is it? It's in stats. That is peculiar. Let's move that to our inventory handlers. And then we can close that. It should be refreshed. And in inventory handlers, we have update Mallight. So perfect. Let's go over there. So this should look familiar. It's a HUD reference, updating the HUD with a bound function. What we want to do here is implement our new event. Or, sorry, before we drag that out, look what we're passing through. It is text. So let's create that input. Text. And we'll just call it, I guess, Mallight on hand. Seems like it'd be an adequate description. So we'll replace our variables here, delete that reference, and connect the dots as so. Now if we save this and compile, let's quickly just do a find references check. Yeah, we're only updating this value on this function, which is totally cool. So from here, should be good to compile and then add that into the HUD. So we're going to make a very quick animation. Basically, my logic is why we don't need to check the Mallight. We don't need to display that value on screen at all times. So we probably could create an animation for the first instance that this is being called. We could set it up so that it's always being, how can I say this? So that'll kind of show up and disappear, similar to the way our, oh man, that's disappointing. For some reason the parameter didn't hold, or I didn't assign it. That's weird. In any case, kind of like how we have this widget for picking up items that comes into the bottom corner and rises up, we don't need to have Mallight on screen the whole time. We could have it appear and fade out, and then make that reappear if we're picking up consecutively. But first we'll make sure that the event dispatcher is working. Why this is giving me an error, I don't know. Let's just go to assign on Mallight. We call it update Mallight counter. So we'll get rid of this fake one plug this in here and drop down. Excuse me. And what we want to do is unbind this. Probably delete this. We don't even need that anymore. And let me just make sure I got the right thing selected yet. Okay, so text block 13 needs to be exposed as a variable, and then let's give it a proper name. Grab our mallet counter, set text, and what we want to do here is dump this in like so. Save, compile. Should be, like from that point, it should be ready to go. We can just drop down some freebie money right here. And, whoa, where's my money at? Did it fall through the world? Oh my god, it must have. My money! What's going on with it? What is going on with these guys? If we take a look at, let's grab this guy first. Set material, sphere, collision overlap all. Okay, I'm just a goof. Yeah, so our mallet counter is updating as it should. But yeah, similar to the items you're collecting, I don't think it's necessary that we have it always on screen at all times. It's like, why would you need to have that information like always? Especially when you can use your pause menu and get it. Let's see here. Whoops. So let's try and make something real quick. What I want to do was sort of animate this. Not Xenos power, probably the horizontal box. Create animation for mallet pickup that would. I guess it could slide out and fade in. So we'd have. What I'm thinking of having is two animations. One where. The first thing I want to check is that the horizontal box for mallet. Can we apply a visibility or an alpha? No. So what I'm going to do here is, what we're going to have to do, unfortunately, is wrap this with a border, and then immediately we want to make that border brush color. We want to make that transparent. And then we have our content color. And I guess by default that should also be set to 0 in terms of alpha. So malite pick up, I'll call it malite enter. So on this here, we go to border, select the element we want to animate in, which is our border malite. We want to add a, for enter we want to add a transform. At like 0.3 seconds maybe. So we'll add a transform track here, and we also want to add on start of this animation, let's add another track for content color, and content color and opacity will be set to 1, totally visible. However, the transform will be slightly off screen at 0. Just over there, at 230. So that essentially makes the animation sort of, well, just this. So it'll come on screen, and then for a new animation, we'll call it malite exit. It would be the same elements. Excuse me, border malite, and just the content color and opacity. What I want to do here is start this at 1, and over the course of maybe set another key here for 1, and then over the course of 1 second, probably fade it to 0, so that we have a little bit of a little bit of time where it's still visible, and then it fades out. And what I want to do is use these two animations to, let me check if I have to compile or if the animations are there. Nope, they are. Probably best to compile just in case. The idea is, as soon as this event fires, we want to call well, this animation, and we want to play it. Excuse me. But we only want to play it once, so we're going to get a do once. And whoops, we want to plug all of this in. And then on the set a delay here. Excuse me, just thinking on how to best implement this. The animation's time is 0.3, so we'll set a delay for that. And then we want to play malite exit. Oh, that's not what we want to do at all. Just grab that play user widget function, hook in our animation we want, and when it's done, we want to reset this so that it can be called again. But the weird part, not the weird part, the tricky part is we kind of want this to be played again if I guess a branch would work. We'll delay this by this will actually be a retriggerable delay, and we're gonna have to use a branch for the setup. Retriggerable delay of 1 second, and yeah, we're gonna need a new variable. We'll call it malite pickup Compile that. By default, it will be false. And instead of a do once, we're going to get a branch. And so we'll make use of this not Boolean. So if this is false, we will enter through here. And immediately set this to true. After that, we just delay. And if this is false, basically we're just going to replay this animation here. And because it's retriggerable, it'll prevent it from actually executing. And well, what we're trying to prevent is this to be set to false. Is it done? So I believe this setup should work. Don't see why it wouldn't. So let's compile, save, maybe drop out a bit more malite to test with. And let's see here. So many comes in and it fades out. And unfortunately, there's a little bit of a... We have to test it kind of quickly because there's a delay on that expiry. So it definitely seems like it's working. We are basically resetting the animation. It's pretty cool. I mean, I guess we could just, if we really weren't sure, I've exposed the decay on these, I think. Or did I not? I guess not. In any case, it's pretty simple to see that it's working. However, for Maya, for some reason, we can't pick up money. And that's probably... oh, that is actually... Yeah. It's actually because we have this function here only being called on the initial execution pin here. We definitely wanted this to be called on both. Like, absolutely. And you know what? I don't think this delay would hurt either. Oh, no. It would. I want it to be as immediate as possible, that reset. In any case, HUD main has an error. But what could that error be? Oh. That should be good. Now then, from here we... Yeah, it works. I think, to be honest, we could use a little bit more time here for this display. Probably like 1 second would be a bit more generous in terms of like not stressing people out where they can't even see what they're looking at. And to compensate that, we'll just increase our timeline here to 1 second. Actually, let me collapse this. And I believe if I collapse it, I can move all the keys at once. And that is correct. In terms of content color, that's fine. We just want to set that to default to true. And here, for this wait time, the 0.3 seconds might actually be fine now that we've added a 1 whole second more before it starts to fade. But you know what? We can probably just move this to the halfway point, and that would be good. Alright, let's test that out. It should work with Maya 2 now. Yep, it does. That's incorrect. On enter, we definitely want that to be short and snappy. The 0.3 was actually a good call. And our exit can be increased. Just like looking at that once, you can kind of tell. Let's play that one more time. And one thing I do want to do is, so now that reads and feels a lot better, I just want to increase that fade out time a little bit. Move the opacity over to here. And now we have pretty much like a 1 second fade out, during which people can sort of reset by picking up other coins, or excuse me, not coins, money, malite, gems. So it's beginning to fade out, and we can pick it up. And I think that's fine. I'm not going to test this, but I'm going to bump this up for another second or half second. I think they'll just feel a lot better. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Set display mallets. Okay, well, anywho, guys, thanks for watching today's development stream. We pretty much, I think we can say we're successful. We set up and implemented, well, not set up, but we optimized our HUD using event dispatchers and removed most, if not all, of the bound functions. Thanks everyone for watching. If you want to support us in any sort of free, if you want to support us at all, please subscribe to us on YouTube. It helps spread awareness, and liking and subscribing also helps our videos get spread around and all that kind of stuff. So the more of that you guys do, the more it helps us, and we truly appreciate it. Anyways, thanks again for watching. I'll probably do, what should we do tomorrow? I guess we could probably do some condition gauge transferring of data. That might be pretty cool. Anyways, see you guys next time. Bye.